Okay, the title of my presentation is The Sale of Women and Children in the Philippines and the Continuum of Violence. I'm Clyde Pasha from the Philippines, and let me start my presentation by remembering my sisters and brothers in the Philippines who died with Typhoon Haiyan. The strongest typhoon ever recorded struck the country on November 8, 2013. So it will be tomorrow. It killed 6,000 people. It has been 2 years and people are still recovering from trauma, still grappling for survival. Other typhoons that hit the Philippines may not have claimed thousands of lives like Typhoon Haiyan, but they too harmed and displaced people, and they are becoming more frequent due to climate crisis. The Coalition Against Trafficking in Women, where I belong to, Asia Pacific, is greatly alarmed by this recurring phenomena, given that the Philippines ranks as the second disaster most prone country next to Vanuatu. Orphaned children, loss of livelihood, and livelihood, especially agricultural crops, threatened food security, and deepening indebtedness due to the typhoons are some of the red flags of trafficking. Profiteers take advantage of the people's, especially women and children's vulnerability. Now, weeks after Typhoon Kopu hit us, it is feared that more women and girls in Central Luzon will be vulnerable to trafficking and prostitution. And the proximity of these provinces hit by Kopu to trafficking destinations such as Angeles and Olongapo, where U.S. military forces still dock to rest and buy women as a form of recreation while they refuel ships. The destruction of crops and the loss of food and income sources could push women and children to exchange themselves for rice or any promise from the traffickers. What I've mentioned are just few contributing factors to trafficking and to prostitution, which is the focus of our organization. And the coalition believes that we should address the problem of trafficking of women and children by directing our solution and programs to the root cause of all this, which is patriarchy, which is a concrete form of power imbalance and unequal power relations. The Philippine Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act languished in our parliament for more than 10 years before it was passed in 2003. It was modeled after the UN Trafficking Protocol of 2000. CATWAP was in the forefront of the lobby for both. And the most essential element, the most essential element of both is the recognition that consent of a trafficking victim in persons is irrelevant and immaterial. In the Philippines, we are always in the argument with law enforcers and groups who lobby for the legalization of prostitution, because both maintain that women chose to be in prostitution, ignoring the structural inequalities, push and pull factors that left trafficked and prostituted women bereft of options. From the case studies filed of Bagong Kamalayan Collective, a survivor-led group, almost 80% of their members started young. They spent their childhood in prostitution dens, and their innocence has been robbed from them. Those who become domestic workers or waitresses were also abused. They were young and had no one to turn to. And now, they have become adults, and they are still trapped in prostitution. Profiteers want to popularize the thinking that these women chose to be in that situation without recognizing women and children's vulnerabilities in society and examining the circumstances and elements that push them into prostitution. The legalization of prostitution and calling it sex work has become popular, but should be resisted. There are powerful hands investing in that campaign, most of which are brothel owners and pimps themselves, and they are financing researches all over. The 1949 convention stated, I keep forgetting this. It stated that prostitution and the accompanying evil of the traffic in persons for the purpose of prostitution are incompatible with the dignity and worth of the human person and endanger the welfare of the individual, the family, and the community. And this is very clear and true when we talk to survivors. To have a clearer picture, the framework of supply and demand in economics can be used. Trafficking in persons ensures the steady supply of women and children to the prostitution industry. because there is a constant demand coming from buyers and procurers, pimps, and the business who traffic to benefit from the exploitation of women and children. The supply are both the victims and the survivors. There is a continuum of violence that these women and girls have experienced that made them vulnerable to sexual exploitation. The intersectionality of issues of women is always a push factor, like the socioeconomic, political, cultural, racial factors, and other circumstances that have happened to these women. The profile of the victims are almost similar. Aside from being either a woman or a child, victims come from poor and big families with dependents. And with the massive contractualization of jobs in the Philippines, clearly there is no job security. The shocking reality for me is that 95% of those who have sheltered are victims of incest rape, childhood sexual abuse, and domestic violence. At a very young age, the idea a child had about love was distorted by those who perpetrated violence against them. One of the survivors whom we've helped recounted that her stepfather was always telling her that he loved her while raping her. She sought for help, but the poor child was accused by relatives of seducing her stepfather. And in the absence of support system that she needed, she became an easy prey for a trafficker. She was brought to Metro Manila and was pimped to customers. She said that what was done to her while in prostitution by customers did not differ to what her stepfather did to her, except that she was given money. Without hesitation, she told us straight in the eye that prostitution is paid rape. A very powerful message coming from a survivor. And with a strong desire to get out of the trafficking situation, women would be investing too much and get attached with the customers, hoping that there will be one man who will get them out of the system. This fairy tale syndrome is very dangerous. Women will again believe in love. Yes, it happens that customers will save them from their pimp, but it does not mean that they will be free from violence. Their partners, knowing their story, will use them sexually anytime they want, and when they refuse, violence will be inflicted upon them. And some will realize that it was not really love and will get out of the situation. But the sad truth is, women with the cycle of violence that they have experienced since childhood, it has become normal for them, and they were desensitized, and most can no longer identify what's being done to them is abuse or not. They learn to accept everything, and the culture of silence is reinforced. The demand for trafficked women and girls has become younger and younger. Records of survivor group BKCI and Buklod ng Olongapo in Olongapo reveals that the age of being bought and sold ranges from 13 to 30 years of age. Meanwhile, the survivor group in Davao has rescued a 9-year-old girl from a prostitution den. CATWAP's advocacy to address forms of modern-day slavery seeks to focus on the demand side and shift the accountability to those actors exploiting women. According to Uniquely, global trafficking is a billion-dollar industry, and undeniably, there is a correlation between pornography, trafficking, and prostitution. Pornography and cybersex industry feeds the exploitative system, and the brothel owners, pimps, managers earn from the system while women continue to lose as they are forced to use drugs and their bodies are mutilated, etc. Male sex buyers create a market that generates a strong profit incentive for traffickers to trap more victims that fuels the growth of trafficking in persons. And the prevailing view on sexuality that real men have the power to buy women and children and that women's bodies are mere objects is at the core of the problem. Our framework is that prostitution is violence against women. It is not work and it should not be legalized. Understanding violence against women and its forms is very crucial to young women and girls, and it starts within the family, and that we have to challenge the conditioning of the media that women are sex objects. When I conduct trainings to survivors or healing conversations with them, it is really heartbreaking that what they're mending are wounds from their childhood. Deep wounds from the different abuses that they have experienced, like sexual abuse, physical and psychological violence. CATWAP campaigns for the harmonization of laws regionally and for the replication of our model projects. It's projecting survivors' voices. Projecting survivors' voices is one of our advocacy, especially in lobbying for laws. The survivors have been calling for the accountability of the sex industries, profiteers, and the buyers for the decriminalization only of the women and children who are bought and sold. The solution, the solution should The solution should start from the community level and preventing it from the source area. So we organized the community-based Pimp Watch in 2003 as a result of our nationwide research on the problem of sex trafficking. The project was established where the highest number of trafficked women and children were found. It is a quick response team which is composed of local village officials. They underwent a series of education and training activities to prepare them on the mission to prevent trafficking. The Advocacy on Demand is one of the popular groundbreaking projects of our organization, which was replicated in Thailand, Indonesia, India, and was presented to Norway. The project gathers young men leaders from the communities and universities in a camp where they were trained on gender issues, sexuality, and prostitution. It was very effective, and it changes the mindset of men while rethinking their masculinity. It challenges the norms and our culture, breaking the stereotypes. The men after the training vow not to contribute to violence against women and not to buy women in prostitution. So the Young Women's Camp, which started in 2004, was followed by the Young Women's Camp in 2007, which I participated in. Its objective was to reduce the vulnerability of young women, and it was truly an eye-opener for me. It made me break the glass ceiling and continue achieving my dreams and began to love myself. It was really empowering. From our documentation, more or less 30% of the women participants in each camp are survivors of violence and have never talked to anyone about their experience. So the camp provided the venue for the women to support each other. From there, in 2009, the graduates of the youth camp gathered and formed a national organization named the Youth and Students Advancing Gender Equality. There are also programs for the empowerment of survivors. So CATWAP assists them from rescue to trafficking situations or from arrests, legal and medical assistance, and temporary shelter. Healing conversations and group therapy, street visits have been conducted. Just 1 second. The survivors also undergo series of trainings like gender sensitivity, women's human rights, and building their capacity on leadership. So we encourage the survivors to recover their dreams and facilitate their re-entry to formal education. While others go back to school, other women joined our livelihood program in which we piloted a cooperative type system where they put up a food catering service and lend money to other women who plan to put up a small business. So the cooperative was dubbed as Manna from Heaven. This year's theme of the Youth Symposium is Real Love Chases Away Fear, Greed, and Slavery, so we must pave the way. It's really something to reflect on. Okay, that's all.